Hi, this is Emily Smith, and this is my presentation for the district that I work for, the Beaumont Unified School District. So Beaumont is in Riverside County. When you're driving east on the 10 freeway, you would hit Calamasa, which is San Bernardino County, and then the very next city is Beaumont. So we're right on the border of Riverside and San Bernardino. As you can see from the chart, Beaumont is a growing city and a growing district. So for a few years there in the 90s, they were kind of stagnant, around 4,000 students. Then when I came on in 06, 07, we had about 7,000, and now we have close to 10,000. So it is just crazy. If you drive around, there's houses being built left and right, and new stores, new restaurants. So it has really grown a lot in the last few years. With that growth comes the growth of elementary schools and schools as well. So currently we have 11 schools. There's 6 elementary schools, 2 junior high schools, 1 high school, 1 alternative ed school, and a 21st century learning academy. So since I've been working there, I have seen 2 new schools get built, and then there is 1 new school that is projected to start open next year, and then there's already 1 slated for 2 years later. Every elementary school that we have is just maxed out. My school, I know, is a TK through 5, and we have about 900 students. So there is not an empty room in the school. We had to move the SAI to the back of the library, in a little room, and we had to divide the speech room in half to give half to speech and half to intervention. So there is just not a lot of room left. We are definitely in need of some new schools. This is our superintendent, Mr. Davis. So he was the assistant of human resources in Beaumont from 2012 to 2016. And then in July of 2016, our former superintendent retired, and so when she retired, Mr. Davis was hired on as a superintendent. Before coming to Beaumont, he worked in the Temecula Valley School District as the director of human resources, and prior to that, he was a teacher and has a master's in special education. He's a pretty friendly guy. He comes out to our school sites often, always has a smile, really just has a positive vibe about him. Here's our Board of Trustees. Mr. Steve Hovey is the president, and he currently works for RCOE, but in the years 2006 to 2011, he actually worked for the Beaumont Unified School District as the director of human resources. And when I interviewed for Beaumont, Mr. Hovey was actually the one who I interviewed with and who hired me. So it's kind of cool to see him on the board. And then Mr. David Sanchez is vice president, and he is a principal in the neighboring city of Banning. Susie Lara is a stay-at-home mom who has lived in Beaumont for 24 years and really wants to bridge the gap between school, home, and community. Janelle Poulter is a counselor in the city of Banning, and she is a mother of 2. And Brian Silva is the newest elected board member. He works out at the College of the Desert, which is a community college in Palm Springs. So he has that background knowledge also. Here's a little bit about our demographics. So Beaumont is predominantly Hispanic or Latino at 52%. And then the next largest group is the white with 32%. And we also have a large African American population, and then Asian, Filipino, American Indian, lots of different other ethnicities. So I just wanted to compare Beaumont, the green, to our neighboring district of Banning as far as the enrollment by ethnicity. So Banning has a higher Hispanic population, almost 67%. And then Beaumont has a higher white population. And besides that, the rest are fairly similar, all within 1% or so, 2% maybe. So those are the largest differences. So what's a big initiative? So this year, a big initiative is what we call the 9 pillars of the 9 essential pillars framework. So throughout every school and every classroom, you'll see this poster posted. And what they did was they wanted to try to figure out how to narrow the achievement gap. So they identified 9 key areas that they felt would support schools and teachers and students. And then if these 9 areas were addressed, it would really get the kids college and career ready, which you see in the middle. So the 9 areas are high impact instruction, effective data usage, deepening learning, structured supports, safe and orderly environment, change of leadership, focused priorities, and a rigorous curriculum. So all of these are just some ideas for teachers, kind of, all right, as we're planning a lesson, what are we thinking about, and what is that affecting, and how are we kind of putting these things together? So I interviewed my principal, Lauren Kinney, who went through Beaumont schools, graduated from Beaumont High School, became a teacher in Beaumont, and now has been a principal for the past 20 years. And she said that she really appreciates this initiative this year because it's kind of brought the teachers back together and it's focused what they need to focus on. So she's really appreciated, and she refers to it a lot in her staff meetings and things. These are our CASP results for 2017. All the way on the far right, you can see the totals. So for ELA, about 50% of our students met or exceeded the grade level expectations. And then for math, you can see it's a little bit lower of a number. So about 35% maybe met or exceeded the grade level expectation. And so math is a big focus right now for Beaumont. You can see as the grades get higher, the math seems to get harder, and the bar graph shows that the standard not being met gets higher and higher. So we're really bringing it back to even TKK1. What are those foundational skills that we can give them so that as they get older and up through the grades, the math, they still have that base to stand on. So we are really math driven right now. Some older results that I found, the 2012 API score and the 2013 API score. So it did go down a little bit. We're still at 805 though for our API score, which was a pretty good score for us as a district as a whole. And then the 2013 STAR test results for Beaumont. So 49% of students in Beaumont were proficient or advanced in math, and 59.8. So 60% of students were proficient or advanced in English language arts. For the CASE in 2015, we had 666 students district-wide take the CASE, and of those 666 students in math, we had an 86% pass rate, and the 662 that took it in ELA, we had 89% pass rate. So also a fairly high pass rate. We did a really good job getting the kids to pass the CASE. Some financials. Beaumont overall has a total funding of $81 million. 16 million of that comes from local revenues, and then there's $52 million that is state aid. And at the bottom, it talks a little bit about just the ADA. I know in our district, in our school, personally, we are big on ADA and attendance. We want the kids there because, we get a lot of funding from the ADA. And so the UPP percent is actually a percent of students who are disadvantaged. So English language learners, foster youth, students on free and reduced lunch. So that's at 60%, which is pretty high for our funding we get for that group. So how do we compare in Riverside County? I just chose 4 neighboring school districts. So San Jacinto is over the hill from us, and they have a similar enrollment numbers. Moreno Valley is about triple the size of us, also in Riverside County. Banning Unified, right next door, is half the size of us, and Romoland is actually smaller than Banning. They're a pretty small district. But Beaumont Unified has the smallest number of free and reduced lunch, even compared to some of the smaller districts and bigger districts. And then English language learners, we also have the smallest percentage of English language learners. The teacher salary, also one of the smallest. So we are at the bottom of the pay scale in Riverside County, unfortunately. We've been working on that, but only Banning is below us. I think there's one other district also. And then the total general fund expenditures per student. So the average for the state for per student expenditure is $11,000. You can see a lot of the districts, San Jacinto, Moreno Valley, Banning, kind of are right at that level. And then Beaumont and Romoland spend a little bit less per student. And how do we compare to other counties? So I pulled up Acton Agua Dulce in Los Angeles Unified, and then Alameda Unified School District, and I pulled those up just because they had similar enrollment to mine. And so they kind of have similar English language learners. Agua Dulce has a little bit less. Alameda has a little bit more. Free and reduced meals, though, Beaumont did seem to have a lot more free and reduced meals. The salary was pretty much the same, and then the general fund expenditures per student, also similar. Agua Dulce spends a little more than the average, and Alameda is right there. So moving forward, what would my suggestions be? So my suggestions would be to continue to work towards a united and cohesive method of implementation. So use those 9 pillars. Just really focus on those, help give teachers a direction, and stick with it. So don't just kind of bring it up for a few years and let it go. If that's the way we're going to kind of maintain that. Professional development for teachers, right now it's a big push. They just are trying to give us all the resources that we can. So I appreciate that. I know that teachers need to keep developing and growing as they're teaching also. So just to kind of keep that at the forefront of what they're doing. And then continue to be technology driven. We are a 1-to-1 Chromebook district for all students. And we have smart boards and we have Elmos. And I think the technology really helps to drive instruction. And it just really enhances the learning. So moving forward, I would say that we continue to be technology driven. And then lastly, I would just say that Beaumont is a great place to work. It's a very small hometown feel. I just see people all over. I'm like, oh, hey, this person, hey, this person. You know, everyone kind of knows each other, which is nice. The administration is very supportive. If we ask for things, they listen. They'll email the right people. They'll kind of get answers for us. So that's nice. And then every school I go to, it's very positive, just welcoming, warm. So I would hope that they would continue those positive attitudes throughout the district. No matter how big we grow, we kind of always maintain that hometown feel. So thanks for listening, and I look forward to hearing your presentations also.